Hello guys, welcome to another weekly breakdown video. Today I'll be breaking down the second, let me see which week. Today I'll be breaking down the third week of April 2024. This back testing has been helping me a lot lately in the live markets because I am seeing the same things happen over and over again, and we know that repetition leads to mastery, right? So whenever the market is trending and you are following the bias, following your plan, in everything in life, if you want to be successful in that, you have to have a plan. Without that, you're nothing, right? So I have a plan which works, and literally I have seen that happen a gazillion of times now in the markets, both in back testing and front testing. Today I got a beautiful trade. Let me show you. It was a 1:10 risk to reward, bro. Genuinely, this trade could have passed me any perform challenge available in this world. So this strategy does work, but this trade was a bit tricky. As you can see, this supply zone that I've marked right here got manipulated, and then the supply zone above that supply zone, the supply zone that I marked was used as manipulation and as liquidity, and then the market went up above and then reacted off of the supply above my supply zone, right? So this trade was a bit tricky. Many people took this. I've seen most of the guys have taken this trade. I should have taken this trade, but I didn't. But I journaled this trade, no problem. And next time if I see an opportunity like this, a clear, clean opportunity like this, I'm gonna take it regardless. So today was a losing day for me, but even though, no problem, we'll bounce back harder. And yeah, now let me start with the analysis. Let me show you the quick call outs quickly. Even though the zones that I'm marking aren't getting respected, when there is news, I'm noticing that after sweeping the zones, liquidity, it is making the move like we saw on Tuesday and Wednesday. Exactly what I've written here happened today, right, on the live market. Whenever there is news before you take a trade, most of the times what it does is news comes in the market to sweep liquidity, right, to manipulate the market. So whenever news is there, it sweeps the zones, liquidity, and then it makes the move. That's what I've written right there. And the bias was still correct on Tuesday. Even though there was news, the order block I marked did play out, but the stop loss was very big to be able to trade. Yep, on Tuesday I did go the trade, but I didn't took the trade because of the stop loss. And obviously if I don't get a 10 pip stop loss, I don't trade. That is one of my rules, because it is not worth it taking a trade very big stop loss, right? So that is one of the thing. Whenever there is M30 supply zone, there is high probability of getting a rejection candle at the M30, like we saw in this trade, and vice versa for H1 and M15. So what I'm saying here is, if you have marked an M30 supply zone, it is more probable that the market will give you a M30 rejection. And if it is so, it is a high probability rejection and a high probability in order block to trade from. So the strategy is literally playing out to the T, and it's just a matter of timing and self-confidence to take the trade in the correct time. So the thing I've written on the back testing literally is working on the front testing. Today, the bias did play out. Everything I marked out, the zones I marked out got respected, the liquidity, everything, the concept that we have learned, everything played out to the T, right? But the only mistake was the timing. So I took them trades on the wrong timing. That is my mistake, and it can be fixed. So no problem. And starting with the weekly without wasting any time, as you have seen from months now, I have marked this supply zone here on the weekly, which was a lower high, acting as a lower highs, lower lows, and I was waiting for. Now literally there was a new change of character on the weekly, so we adapt. We don't predict, we don't react. We react and adapt, sorry. So now as we have seen a new change of character because of this lower high, because of this break of lower high, it made a new higher high, and after that higher high break, we know there's a lower low. So I understand that. So that's a bit complicated. You guys have to learn the basics first, and if you do that correctly, you will be able to know. And this was the supply zone that I marked on the weekly. And looking at the weekly time frame, clearly the next week it will be very interesting to trade because of the bias is so clear next week being bearish, right? And now going on DXY, let me show you the bias. On DXY, my bias was so clear, being bullish after this candle. Yes, there is always a chance that the market can come back, rebalance the price, and then go up. But as I've told you a gazillion of times, that we don't do that. We trade with the trend, right? So that was my weekly bias. And also let me show you quickly the call out that I've written on DXY, which was whenever the bias is super clear in one glance in the daily time frame, that is when it is high probability to trade. Yes, let me show you what I've written and the meaning. So the weekly bias is so clean, being bearish. So whichever trade is aligning with the weekly bias being bearish will be considered as a higher probability trade, right? So Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday literally closed so bearish. So there is no meaning for me looking for, yes, there's always a chance that it can go and rebalance, but I will not look for that. I will wait for the market to show me confirmation that it wants to go and do that. So on Monday, I was looking for sells. And let me show you quickly the daily bias. And the daily bias on DXY was also bullish, as how this candle closed. There was a fair value gap to the downside, but the same thing that I've told. And if I show you the news, on Monday there was core retail sales, there was New York news, no London news. So on London session we could have taken a trade, right? So that is when I start to go to lower time frames like the H4, marking my supply zones, fair value gaps, change of and structures, right? So on the H4 there was nothing much. There was a supply zone here. Obviously this was the high that goes this lower low, so we could have anticipated. We are not swing traders, we don't trade the H4 time frame. So if we were swing traders, we would have waited for the market to reach all the way up here to the supply and then reject. But we don't do that, we go to the lower time frame. So obviously I will look for a supply zone in the H1 time frame. So that is when I went to the H1 to look for supply zones. I pretty much found a very beautiful supply zone here. So let me show you on Monday what happened. So the Asian range literally went so close to the supply zone. As you can see, I was looking for a quick trade like Asian high sweep, supply zone mitigation, rejection candlestick, boom, to the downside. Simple as that, right? Was looking for something like that, but obviously on Monday it was a losing trade. Let me show you why, how. So if I show you the price on the hourly, because I watch the markets at the hourly nowadays to reduce inducement. So I took an L here. This was a genuine L. This was an hourly rejection, and after an hourly rejection like this from a supply zone that I've marked, that was an M30 supply zone, I would have taken this trade any day. As you can see, I would have taken this trade any day. And yeah, the entry was on M5, M1 change of character, sorry. So we got induced. The same sort of thing happened today with me. We got induced. The position was still correct, the idea was still correct, but we got induced, and then literally the move happened to the T, right? Look at this move right here, right? The same sort of move happened today. We got induced here, induced in this position right here, and then the main move happened after inducing us. Inducement is like taking our stop loss to gain orders, to gain liquidity. And Monday was a very, very tricky day, and we lost Monday. Losing is a part of the game, as I've told you a gazillion of times, and I have also journaled this trade. And if you want to have some extra knowledge on these trades, then you can watch my other videos. And whereas now going on Tuesday, let me show you my bias and all of that. Now you can argue there is a fair value gap here, but what is the market saying to you? To good listeners, the market do speak. So here we can see that on Tuesday, literally, does it make sense to go and fill up this fair value gap, or does it make sense to go down and continue with the trend? For me, at least, it makes sense to go down. So on Tuesday, I was looking for sales so much, and also comparing on DXY. Yes, there is a fair value gap, but until and unless, right, we need confirmation from the market. So going on Tuesday, I was looking for sales again. So that is when I go to the lower time frames like the H4. The H4 fair value gap got filled 80 to 90%, and it was rejecting. On the H4, we look for the market structure, price action. So this was a lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, and then now we can pretty much consider a lower low. And also the previous week low was getting so closer, so that is also our target. If my bias is bearish, obviously I'm targeting the previous week low. So on Tuesday, pretty much what I was looking for was, Tuesday I didn't look for anything, I guess, did I? So okay, so on Tuesday I was looking for a trade from this sort of supply zone here on the M30 again. So obviously I wait for the Asian range to close. Also there was news this week. There was a bit more GBP news, I believe. Yes, on Tuesday there was GBP news, Wednesday there was CPI, and Friday also there was GBP news. So yeah, we trade London session, and whenever there is GBP news, trading London session becomes a bit tricky, as we know. And yeah, still then my zone was respected. Even though there was news, my zone was respected. As you can see, the liquidity of the zone got swept, everything. Literally today what happened with me on back testing and front testing are same sort of thing. So obviously that shows that market structure repetition happens, human emotions repeat itself, and even though history doesn't repeat itself exactly, it sinks, right? So that's what we are seeing in the markets right now. So I didn't took the trade here because my stop loss was very big, as I've written the callouts. So whenever there is an M30 supply zone, this was for this trade right here on Monday. So this was an M30 supply zone, right? Look at this, an M30 beautiful rejection candlestick. You can see right there, right? That is why I was written there. That is why I have written that there. And if I show you my call out here, the bias was still correct on Tuesday, even though there was news. The auto block I marked did play out. So where's the lie, right? The auto block that I marked did play out, but it was a liquidity sweep trade, and on Tuesday literally it went to the downside. So that is when I go to Wednesday to look for trades. It's so simple. My strategy is so simple. It is illegal, bro. It should be illegal to be so simple. All I'm doing is looking at the higher time frames, like the daily. I trade the daily bias. I don't care what others do. What works for me is what I do, right? The last look, if you want to be profitable, don't stop depending on others. The day you stop depending on others, that is when you start to see some progress. The previous week low is now taken, so now the sales makes little less sense. Why? Because the main target has been taken, right? So this was a kind of bearish candle on Tuesday, and if I go to DXY to confirm my bias, even now it's bullish. So does it make sense to go down or up? It makes for me to go up, even though there is a high chance that the market can now literally do something like that. But even though we will not predict that, we will adapt to the conditions. So obviously I was looking for sales again going on Wednesday. That is when I go to the lower time frames. The same repetitive thing. I do the drill same again and again and again and again. And yeah, the 4 hour has now started to make bearish structures, and on the hourly this was a valid supply zone due to this change of character somewhere around here. Yes, so this was the supply zone because of this zone right here. On Wednesday there was CPI, so obviously on Wednesday I didn't took the trade because of CPI. And let me show you, this was the supply zone that I marked to trade, right? My supply zones, my order blocks marking are so accurate nowadays, bro. Literally 8 out of 10 times my order blocks get respected. As you can see, there was CPI, right? Even though there was CPI, my supply zone did got respected, as you will see. Literally it got respected, didn't it? It didn't make an impulsive move from here. It didn't broke out. Obviously it swept the liquidity, obviously, because liquidity is the essence of the market. The market chased liquidity, so it went and chased liquidity, and it respected my supply zone. And this is when I go to Thursday. So now it will get more interesting. As you can see, going on Thursday now, look, trading, once you have put systems in place and you have an organized plan, trading is very, very simple. People make it harder by believing that it's hard. I don't know why, but yeah, they are self-sabotaging themselves. Now this was a Thursday candle. So going on Thursday, obviously my bias is not that clear. As you can see, it closes a bullish candle, so I confirm my bias on DXY. So now DXY is looking so bearish, and when look, what I said on Monday and Tuesday, I will wait for the market to show me confirmation that it wants to go and fill up the fair value gap. Now it is showing me confirmation that it wants to go and fill up that fair value gap. So that is when I start looking for buys on GBP USD. So if I want to look for buys, I will look for some change of characters on the lower time frames. So on the 4 hourly there was nothing. On the hourly there was a change of character here, and this was the demand zone on the hourly. So I was looking for some sort of buys from this demand zone, which didn't happen, I believe. And on London session there was no news. So yeah, my demand zone, let's see if my demand zone, and this demand zone was not high probability, because you can argue that there was a market structure shift. Obviously there was a market structure shift, there was fair value gap, and it was with the bias being bullish. Even though the bias did change in the week itself, but that we don't trade, that is written in my trading plan. But due to I'm backtesting, I'm trying everything so that I can learn as much as possible and make mistakes in the backtesting so that I can avoid making them on the live markets. So this demand zone was already mitigated, and we know by the trading geek, seeing his videos, that whenever a demand zone or an order block is mitigated, that means that is a low probability zone, because it has already got tap in once, then it makes sense to not tap in again, something like that. So on Thursday we didn't got any trades. That is when I go for Friday, and Friday now literally again, obviously I got my trades on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, so I will, in the live markets I would have not forced these trades, but going on Friday, if I'm looking for something, it would be sells. And in DXY you can see it filled up the fair value gap a little bit, and then now it's again continuing to the upside with bullish. And if I draw my fib retracement, because it is a change of character, whenever there is a change of character in the higher time frames and it's retracing, starting to retracing, we draw the Fibonacci to see the 50% and the 61.8 retracement. And you can see here the retracement is literally, if the market decided to retrace and fill up this fair value gap here, I would not be shocked, because yeah, it would be a healthy pullback and it would change nothing. So on the daily time frame going on Friday, I was looking for sales again, but now the market has been a little bit choppier, and on the 4 hour there was no change of characters, and also it was already bearish. So going on Friday, I was looking for some sort of supply zones. If I want to sell, I would look for supply zones, right? So the Asian range was very big, as you can see. The Asian range was like 49 pips, which is not unusual. But at that time, on 2024, it was some sort of unusual, I guess. So this was the supply zone I was looking to trade. The market did came up, and it was a loss on Friday. So this was the first loss of the week. Losses are part of the game. Everything, even if everything you want to see in a trade will be there, right? Sometimes you will lose. That's just part of the game. And losing in trading is like a business investment. You do a business, obviously there is always a chance that you will lose, right? So you should not look that as a loss, but an business investment to prepare yourself for the future wins. That is how you should look at losses. The same freaking thing happened again here. We entered here, our position got induced, this supply zone got manipulated again, and then boom. This was a sign to me that something like this is gonna happen to me today. Literally 2 to 3 times it happened on my back testing today, and then on the live markets the same sort of thing happened. That means this thing is real, and even if I get induced next time and my bias is so clear and I get my entry once more, I'm taking it regardless. So this backtesting was a very good, today's backtesting was a very high value backtesting. Hope you guys learned something from these videos. And yeah, these videos are very value packed, raw videos. Whatever I'm learning, I'm sharing with you guys. And yeah, these are the callouts. If you wanna have a look right here, these callouts, everybody doesn't show this, they charge for it, right? So now when you're getting it for free, as you guys have a scarcity mindset. And yeah, so going on the next week now, trading would be more funner because the bias is so clear, right? And yeah, this was the video. Got to learn a lot of things, and we'll keep going.